Welcome to the Without the Bank podcast. Today, let's talk about taxes and probably the worst advice out there and that you've ever gotten as business owners. This is kind of a hot topic for me. I'm not going to lie. You know, a lot of people think, oh, Mary Jo, you don't like bankers and you hate the bankers. Well, first of all, I did a podcast on that not so long ago. I don't have a problem with bankers, right? Bankers are not the people that are making the decisions. They are not the ones leading us down this horrible path. The people mostly that are leading us down this horrible path of finance are the accountants. And they are giving us terrible, terrible, terrible advice. And we are taking it because we are not accountants. We don't know the tax laws. Even though I have gotten to the point in life where I know more tax law than I care to know. I don't want to know all this tax code, okay? That's not my job. It's not what I love to do. I don't get excited to listen to tax podcasts, but I do because I've yet to find an accountant that truly understands business, how to run a business, how to get the best tax breaks that you can get outside of putting money into an IRA. That's what I was told last year. Well, Mary Jo, the only option is to put money into an IRA. Are you kidding me? That's the best you can do. That's the best you got for me, an IRA. I wrote this little book called Life Without the Bank. I practice this concept called the infinite banking concept, where it's 100% against IRAs, and you're telling me that's the best you got. You've been in the business for how long? That's all you got. So yeah, I'm going to beat up on some accountants today who are nothing more really than a tax preparer, paper pusher. That's what most accountants are taught to do. Save you money on taxes at the end of the year and get you to zero. Now, believe me, I don't want to pay $1 dang in taxes. I would love the libertarian thought process of saying, you know what, that road that goes across in front of my house, I would love for me to pay privately to have that road maintained. I would love to pay the schools privately and not have my tax dollars go to a school where my child doesn't even go. I would love to get rid of the majority of the taxes. Now, I don't mind my taxes going to pay for cops, for firemen. I don't mind paying taxes if the money would be spent the way it's supposed to be spent, but it's never spent the way it's supposed to be spent. And so what do? We go to the accountant at the end of the year and say, look, we made all this money. Yay for us. And the accountant says, oh, you are going to have to pay a lot of money in taxes. Why don't you go buy something that you can depreciate? It's going to save you money. You're not going to have to pay the IRS. Well, doesn't that sound wonderful? But it's only half of the story, Mr. Accountant and Mr. Business Owner. Half of the story. The rest of the story goes, okay. So if I have to pay $30,000 in taxes, now I ran the numbers and I have them here in my little sheet. So those of you that are watching me on video, you'll see me glancing down. Otherwise, you're just going to be listening to me on your podcast app, which is just fine too. So if we make $200,000 a year and we have our standard deduction, we're going to owe about $30,000 in taxes. That means that if we want to get down to about $5,000 in taxes, we're going to need to buy something for $126,000. That is going to get us down to about a 5% or a $5,000 tax bill. Geez, we just saved $25,000. All we have to do is spend $126,000 to save $25,000. Oh, sweet. I need a business expense. I could go buy a couple vehicles, right? I could buy a piece of equipment with that. Depends on what kind of business you're in. You might need a small tractor. You might need a new pickup with a bucket on it. You might need a small piece of equipment. $126,000. That's all you got to do. So If I am going to buy something for $126,000, do I have the 126? I may not. So I'm going to go to the bank and I'm going to ask Mr. Banker if he will lend me $126,000 so then I can go buy that piece of equipment. If I do that and he lends me that money over 7 years at 4%, 7 years at 4%, I spent $21,000 in interest. So now I only saved $4,000 because I was going to pay $25,000 in taxes, right? Now I'm going to pay $21,000 in interest. So I really only saved $4,000 by buying that piece of equipment because instead of money that I would have paid to the IRS, I'm going to pay that to the bank. And then what? And then are we going to complain about the bank because he doesn't think we know how to run our business and we can't make our payments? Did we need whatever it is that we bought? Or did we just do it because we are avoiding taxes? And now we created a payment for the next 7 years. This, my business friends, is where the nightmare begins. We are buying stuff, creating a payment that is cash flow leaving our system plus interest. And at the end of the day, we didn't save any money. Now you may say, but Mary Jo, I didn't need to borrow any money because I had the cash. Okay, fantastic. You had the $126,000. So you could have just paid the $30,000 in taxes. Then you would have had $96,000 of liquid money you could have used to operate your business. You could have used to pay down some loans at the bank and get away from the banking system. You could have used that money to lend to other people and make 7, 8, 9, 10% on that money. But instead, did you wrap it up into a depreciating asset that didn't make you anything? Now, if you spent money on something that created cash flow to make the payment, kudos to you. Rock on, man. Seriously. Awesome. Because now we're thinking about cash flow, right? But if all we're doing is the cycle of what our wonderful paper pusher tells us to do and avoid taxes, is that the answer? I have a friend, not only were they given some of the worst tax advice ever in the past and did not run their business right financially, but they were told by their accountant not to be an S-Corp because they probably won't make enough money this year. When does your accountant get to decide how much money you're going to make? So they didn't file an S-Corp designation. Now they are stuck with massive taxes because it all comes to them as a sole proprietor. If you're a sole proprietor being told to buy things to avoid taxes, should you be an S-Corp? Should you be on payroll? Should you be taking distributions? These are all questions you need to be asking. And if your accountant is poo-pooing it, go get a second opinion. And until you get about 3 or 4 poo-poos, then you know that's probably a pretty decent answer. Nearly the same thing happened to me. Oh, you're not going to make enough. You've struggled for 5 years. You're probably done. You don't need to file an S-Corp. Guess what? That year was the best year I ever had. Ton of money I made compared to what I had been making. And I was hammered in taxes because the accountant didn't do his job. I am telling you, people, you have to know the tax code. You have to pay attention to people that understand what they're doing with taxes, not paper pushers, but CPAs that actually know what they're doing. There is a podcast that I listen to, and they talk a lot about real estate, and I am not this big, huge real estate lover. I'm just going to be honest. I'm just not. I have some real estate, and it is what it is, and I am not going to be this big real estate Mongol that's like, oh, I need to have 50, apartments and VRBOs and I mean, maybe I'll find a love for it along the way, but right now, not my love. But we do have some real estate. But anyway, this podcast is the Anderson Business Advisors podcast. And they just, for the most part, have really, really good advice on what entity structure to be setting up at, how to be writing your home office off, how to be taking expenses on vehicles, some real estate stuff, some legal stuff, like just a really super informative podcast that I just so happen to find. And right now, that is about the only thing that is giving me some really good guidance in how to be doing things correctly, because these guys don't believe you should just go create payments. If you're going to have a payment on something, is it going to cash flow to pay for itself? Are we really just deferring taxes from the government? We're deferring money that would have gone to the government in taxes to the bank in interest. Okay. Then we complain about the bank having too much control, but we're the ones that actually went there and decided to go borrow money. Then if I hear you say, well, Mary Jo, I don't have the $30,000 to pay the taxes. My next question is, why not? What are you doing with your money that you don't have money to pay taxes? If you are a business owner and you get paid and you don't automatically take 20 to 30% of that and put it in a side account for taxes, why not? If you're getting stuck with taxes at the end of the year and that's a big surprise, it's because you are not managing your money correctly. And that is just, I mean, maybe I'm missing something, but to me, it's that simple. X amount goes to an account. I always have enough money sitting in my account to pay my taxes. I know I don't have a separate account for it. That's not how I work. But I know in my little head, I'm like, okay, this much is on this how much I'd have to pay on taxes today. So I can't use that for business. And if I use it for something, I know it needs to be turned around very, very quickly with a guarantee to be turned around very quickly. So I have it to pay taxes. I personally am not a person that wants to file an extension. I had an accountant that did extensions and, it was just automatic. Oh, I'll file an extension. For the love of Pete, why are you filing an extension? I have a bookkeeper. I have all of my stuff done and ready by January 15th. As soon as my husband's information comes from his employer, I have all of that stuff ready. So why are you filing an extension? I don't want an extension. I want to know how much I have to pay so then I can go about my business and do what I need to do. Can I buy more apartments? Do I buy more land? Do I start another business? How much of this is extra money? Because what did I have to pay in taxes? Right? I don't know the exact dollar amount as we go along. And yes, there are things I buy for a tax advantage. Absolutely. But I needed those things. Okay? We bought a tractor. We needed it. We bought a side-by-side. We needed it. There are tools that we will buy. We need those tools. If you have to go buy a piece of equipment because it's going to make you money, then go buy that piece of equipment. But do you need that piece of equipment? Do your employees, do you need a new fleet of pickups to be driving around? Maybe not. Maybe not. If we can have liquid cash, would we rather have the liquid cash? So think about all these things we have been taught by accountants telling us that, oh, yes, we need to avoid taxes. Really? Or have they just made that their job? There could possibly be other things that you're already doing that could be written off. Are you taking mileage over expenses? I just found this out myself recently, that mileage is usually not better than expenses. And with gas prices where we're at today, if you have a business that you are constantly driving around, electricians, plumbers, construction, Welders, probably not so much driving because you're not going from point A to point B a million times a day. But with gas prices the way they are, you may want to not take mileage, right? Maybe we want to take the expenses instead. You got to look at those things. You don't just get to be a business owner and go, I got a guy for that. I heard that one time. Oh, I got a guy for that. That's what our accountant's for. That's putting a whole lot of trust in one person that may or may not know what they're doing. A whole lot of trust, my friends. I wouldn't do it. Call me a control freak, whatever it is you want to call me, but I would not be doing that. You still want to be educating yourself because I haven't had horrible accountants. I have had really good accountants that were auditors for the IRS and one auditor for 30 years with the IRS. Totally know what they're doing, but could not give me the best advice I needed to take advantage of things I already had, like a home office. Where's that advice? Okay. So do not, it's this time of year where we're all going out and we're all buying things to avoid taxes. Before you make that decision, look at, can I pay $30,000 and have $96,000 liquid so I don't have to go to the bank and borrow that to operate for payroll? I don't have to go to the bank and use that for fuel and expenses and contracting materials and whatever it is that you're buying. Can I use cash instead? All right, folks, if you do not have the book, Life Without the Bank, please go to withoutthebank.com, grab that book, get ahead of where your peers are, get out of the banking system, and start controlling a lot of that yourself. There is a time and a place for a bank, but we still want to have the ultimate control. All right. Thanks very much for tuning in. I so appreciate it. Share the podcast, leave a review, whatever it is you feel that you should be doing. Otherwise, I will talk to you guys next week, and you have an absolutely fantastic week.